Welcome to the Morning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Worman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll be getting into our second part of our four-part NFL QB preview for the 2026 NFL season. We'll be covering the divisions uh, of the two South divisions this week. Uh, and before that, we'll talk a little bit about the Kansas City Chiefs preseason game, first of the season. But we'll start today with our Kansas City Royals, kind of muddled through another week. I think they were 3-3 since we chatted last. Mike, we did get
Mm.
a couple of players back from the injured list finally, in Mikael Garcia and Vinnie Pasquantino. We also saw a handful of relievers being released or shuttled back to the minors. And I don't know if those were positive moves or not, but it was nice to see some of the old faces who'd come back from the injured list. Mike, is any of this drawing more of your attention back towards the Royals, or are you sort of like giving up entirely on the season and shifting gears to Chiefs preseason already?
I'm kind of shifting gears, but I guess there have been some bright spots. The Noah Cameron complete game shutout with only allowing one hit was a nice way to be on play in the weekend against the Angels. So that was a good really excellent game for him. A little very similar to the game that he had against the Twins, where the Royals were up 3-0, and then they had a great performance, 8 inning performance from Noah Cameron, and then decided to take him out in the ninth inning, and then proceeded to give up a walk-off grand slam to the Twins and lose that game 4-3. They decided to keep Cameron in the ninth inning this time, and Cameron uh, slammed the door on Mike Trout and the Angels. So this was a better way. I guess Matt Quatrero learned his lesson in that game to just avoid the Royals bullpen as much as possible, if possible. They've
Yeah.
been historically bad this year. Um, yeah, and the Royals right now are losing 3-1 in against the A's. They beat the A's last night, Monday night, and then are losing 3-1 right now going into the ninth inning. So they probably will lose again. So they'll probably be 3-4 this week since we talked last. But better than
Yeah.
it could be, and better than it was when they played the Cubs and Dodgers when they were only one out of six of those games. So maybe slight improvement. They're treading water kind of against they won two out of three
Not
against
very
the
good teams.
they won 2 out of 3 against the Angels, who's one of the two teams with the worst record there was in the American League, and then right now they're splitting the series with the A's, who are the other team with a worse record than the Royals in the American League. So there's only two teams that are worse than Kansas City right now, and the Royals are at least are holding their own slash doing a little bit better than
The
those.
league's worst.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that good enough for you for evaluating where they are?
I think it demonstrates kind of where they are. They were dominated by the good teams, and they're slightly better maybe than the worst teams if they play if they continue to play well. Again, they might I guess they have 2 more games after tonight against the Athletics, just the Athletics, no
Right.
city name, even no Sacramento Athletics. They're just the
Right.
right now.
Just the athletics.
Or maybe just athletics. I don't know if they're even the athletics. ESPN has it listed as athletics, but
It's athletics, yeah.
against Kansas City Royals. But yeah, I'm basically have switched gears into football season at this point. There's no hope for the Royals to make the playoffs. There's The Royals are, yeah, 52 and 74 as we speak, perhaps 52 and 75 by the time we finish this tonight. And yeah, 14 games out of first place right now in the Central Division. Kind of interestingly, the other three teams in Central Division behind Chicago, who are leading, or at least it was until just a few minutes ago, they were all tied at 61 and 65, with 5 games back of Chicago. But now Minnesota has won tonight, so they're 62 and 65. So they're each team is um, yeah, basically a three-way tie for second place, and then the Royals are a distant fifth.
But yeah, going into this season, everybody kind of thought this was a mediocre Central that was winnable by, having just like a decent season, and the hope was that the Royals were on the way up rather than on the way down. So this is a little extra disappointing because like the team has not emerged as being a dominant team, but it is the muddled mess that you kind of would have thought at the beginning of the
Yeah,
season. Yeah, and unable to do anything even against a not so strong
yeah.
division.
The only division that's worse, I think, is the AL West, which has two bad teams like the Royals and
Yes.
three mediocre teams at the top.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Royals' playoff percentage, according to ESPN, is less than 0.1, less than 0.1%.
Yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
Tigers are at 19% for making the playoffs, and they're five, at least as of earlier today, they were in 5 games out. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah,
I mean it's
every
just and the White Sox team though, had a historically bad season 2 years ago. Odds on favorite to win the division right now. That's I don't think anybody would have guessed that.
no, yeah, it's bad. And the Tigers have been one of these
Weird
unlucky
year.
teams. They're one of the few teams with you have a really good run differential, plus 83, and they're still 4 games under 500. It's a better run differential than the Rays have, who are 75 and 50,
Yeah.
and it's about the same as the Yankees and Red Sox.
They've also like made a couple of trades here before the deadline, so
Mhm.
no longer have Scooble.
No, yeah, they've
So like
kind of
the
given it up.
expectation for the rotation is probably not nearly as high
No,
now as it would have been at the beginning of the season with Scooble. But yeah, this has been a very strange baseball season though. We've seen a couple of teams that fully replaced their coaching staff have bounced back to have decent seasons, like the Red Sox
yeah,
and the Phillies too, right? When they're back in being like contending
hmm
form after, firing their coach early in the year.
yeah. Do you think the Royals should have done that to would that have changed things?
No.
No, they'd still be terrible.
No, because I mean I don't think it would have made any difference because I don't think the managers are making the decisions. So unless they actually change the strategy up from up above, I don't think you're going to see any impact on the game level. Like
Yeah,
the player usages, I think would remain the same because I don't think the managers are making the decision.
and I think in this case there's been a lot of injuries, so that's hurt the Royals. But then also just
Yeah,
the bullpen has been so bad, and I don't know if anybody could manage the bullpen any better or worse than what it's been because they just whoever they throw out there just gives up a ton of runs. So
I don't know.
it's not like there've been a couple of good players this year. They've all been really bad, it seems like.
I think there are strategies that you can use to sort of like, hide some poor play by just having like bullpen roles, and they just don't do that. I think you'd have to establish some kind of system first, which is easy to do. Like they've had roles in the past, but they just don't do that now in the Royals in particular. So like they keep going to guys that they think are good at a situation, but they are not good at a situation. And so, if you go to somebody that is particularly bad at something in a particular situation and you keep going to them and they keep having the same bad effect, whose fault is that though? Is that the player?
I think it's everybody's fault.
Okay, there's a lot to go around, but if you don't have like the best players, you can still, figure out a way to like at least get through the season. And there have been a lot of players that have been DFA'd recently, and most of them are like opting out of staying with the organization and accepting the assignments. I think that's a little bit telling too.
Well, Carlos Duran is in the game now. Recent pickup in one of the trades that
Recent call up after another DFA of, well, I guess it's just an option. Did you like Lucas Urseg was sent down for the
it was
first time in
it
his
was sent
career.
down to, and they put in Duran.
He
And Duran,
apparently still had options though. I was
I
surprised
didn't know.
about that.
I was
Did
surprised
you know
about
he
that
still
too.
had options?
No, I didn't know. I didn't. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Duran had an 81 ERA going into this game.
Oh,
It says that he had an 81 ERA. Maybe that was with the Reds. Maybe that was this year with the Dodgers when he
yeah.
got
it must have been
traded.
elsewhere this
Because
season. He pitched for the Royals. Yeah.
he's got a 0 ERA according to the box score with the
Uh,
so
but this is not the Duran that the Royals were interested in the offseason.
not Jarren Duran, no. The Red Sox outfielder who would have been a good pickup, I'm sure. But they wanted to trade Reagans for him, so the Royals did not want to trade Reagans, but Reagans has been so injured, maybe it would have been good to trade Reagans because then they could have gotten something for him before his
Yes.
arm fell off. And yeah.
So that 81 ERA is Duran's career ERA. It was from one appearance last season with the A's.
Oh, one appearance last season with the A's. I see. Okay.
So it was a one third of an inning,
3 runs allowed.
3 walks, 1 hit, 3 earned runs.
Yeah. Although Jarren Duran this year has not been very good. He's only batting 203, but he has 16 home runs and 61 RBIs. So not too
Yeah, I
bad.
think. I mean, I think just in general, you should, if you have the opportunity to pick up a regular everyday player
Hmm.
for a starter, you're still getting, performance every day versus only once every 5 days.
Usually, yeah. I think, yeah.
I
I
mean,
see
you
why
you
they kept
could
Reagan.
approach the thought process that way anyway. Yes,
Yeah.
but a really good starter is probably more valuable than an average everyday player, though.
Yes, I would agree.
But, but a guy that plays every day versus a guy that's injured all season, who would you rather have?
Yeah.
If we knew what was going to happen this year, I think you'd make that trade now, right?
Yeah, but I don't think if the Red Sox knew what was going to happen, I don't think they would make the trade. So
No,
if we had the advantage and the other teams did not of
no,
hindsight or
of knowing the future.
foresight, yeah,
Yes,
but we'd be pretty good if we knew what was going to happen in the future. We'd be
yes.
we'd be making a lot more money on our NFL bets, that's for sure.
Our stock picks and all kinds of financial
It'd be like
windfalls would be coming our way, right?
yeah, it'd be like Back to the Future 2.
Yes.
Back to the Future last year. Last week, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back to the Future 2 where the stock the where Biff made all of his money on those stock pick those betting not
Sports
stock pick,
bets, right?
sports
Yeah.
bets that of see that sports almanac that Marty McFly picked up in the future.
Yes. And left behind.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Anyway,
It's all
I'm
we
really
need to do, Mike, is find a future sports almanac that was left behind by someone
yes. Time.
traveling back in time.
Yes. Hopefully by your uh employee's loser's son,
Yes.
right? Wasn't isn't that Biff? Wasn't didn't his dad work for Biff, or wasn't that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I don't follow. I don't have the Back to the Future movies, especially two. I think I have two the least down in my mind. I know three pretty well, and I know one pretty well, but I don't have.
no.
I remember two. They went to the future. Two is the one they actually went to the future,
Right.
or at
And we
least the
still don't have most of the things that they thought would be commonplace 30 years in the future from 1985,
no.
which is now in our past by more than a decade.
Yeah.
And we still don't have hoverboards or flying cars, Mike.
Hmm.
How disappointing.
It is very disappointing.
Oh well. But anyway, should we change gears here and flip over to talking about the Chiefs preseason?
Yeah, we can change to the Chiefs preseason.
A little more hopeful area, maybe rather than
Yeah.
the somewhat
Although they
depressing Royals current season.
yeah, although the Chiefs did not win their preseason opener, they lost to the Rams 20-12, which was like we have been preaching an under 32 points were scored over. I think 35 and a half was the over under. So again, the over under lines have been set really, really low in the preseason because they don't expect many points to be scored. So it seems like that is we've that loop that easy money under has gone away for us.
Yeah.
Or maybe it
I
was
didn't really look at like all the games. Were more of the games unders or
I didn't
was
see
it kind of a mixed
either.
bag? I saw there was a 13-13 tie. I assume that one would have been under, whatever the
Under.
over under was.
The 16-14 would have been under probably 28-9, kind of iffy. 27-7, 1930. A lot of I'd say a lot of games finished well under most of every game finished under 40 points almost.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or right around like the high is like around just over 40, it looks like.
see 43 there's a 43 Buffalo Carolina,
Yeah.
Chicago Cleveland 44, Jacksonville New Orleans 44.
Yeah, so those are probably
Those are the highest.
overs.
Yeah, those are the highest ones. And those probably wouldn't or those might not be overs in the regular season. So it's usually around because we didn't we look at it, it was around 44 to 45 was the average over
Yeah.
in the regular season.
Yeah, that Jacksonville New Orleans game was 36 and a half and it was 44. So that one was
Mhm.
over. But yeah, it looks like a lot of them would have been
A lot of them would have been under this week.
right around or under.
Yeah,
Well, the Green Bay Pittsburgh was 37. The over under was 38 and a half. So that one's even
those
that
under.
37 point
Got under.
outburst of scoring was still under, Mike.
Still under. Green Bay at Pittsburgh.
Okay, so yeah, the Chiefs did drop their opener
20
in
to
the
12.
preseason. So yeah, what
Yeah.
did you see anything that was encouraging to you? I think most of the starters didn't play. Saw Justin Fields take the first quarter, as did let's see who started for St. Louis.
Los Angeles.
Yes, the former St.
I
Louis.
think didn't
That was Stetson Bennett, I think.
Stetson Bennett started, I believe, for them. And then
Yeah,
Ty Simpson played most of the game and he ended up leading his team to victory. They had two touchdown passes. The Chiefs didn't score any touchdowns. They only had four field goals, including a 59-yarder by Harrison Butker, one of two Harrison kickers in the game. Uh, Mevis and Butker, as I call them. and they aren't they need to have their own show together because they're both named Harrison, and they have
Possibly an animated series.
yeah, Mevis and Butker. They could be they could they could have
They sit around and talk
they
about
could have
stuff all day.
they could have a political talk show if Mevis were a firebrand liberal, especially that would be a good one
True, true. Yeah.
with Butker's hardline conservatism.
Hmm.
But Mevis and Butker needs to become something.
How is it not already a thing though? Like that's really seems like that should have been should be talked about more. I don't. How was it not? The Harrisons.
Yes. Well, that we had because we had that to talk about for the Rams and Chiefs. I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot that I saw that was really indicative of anything other than the fact maybe that the third stringers or fourth stringers of the Rams maybe were a little bit better than the fourth stringers or third stringers of the Chiefs. At least maybe with Ty Simpson at quarterbacks. But really, you could say that Ty Simpson is probably a better quarterback than Stetson Bennett is, and he should have been playing earlier rather than later when the worst players are out there, or the worst defensive players are out there. I'm not sure. Maybe he had
Yeah.
it, but it wasn't. You actually were at the game, Dr. Scaff. Did you learn anything firsthand from being there, or do you think you learned less watching the game live than you would if you had watched it on TV?
I probably actually learned a little bit less because it was really hard to tell who was doing what at any point in time from the stands, just because you can't really just see who is doing what. They don't show like jersey numbers, and you just sort of guess who was doing what. But yeah, at least on TV, you could at least like put a number and the play together to figure out who was doing what. So yeah, I think I probably actually learned a little bit less. But
Yeah.
I mean, there were certain things that you could see, just in general, was that like the Chiefs had some penalty problems. I think they ended up with what 12 or 13 penalties in the game, and a lot of them came like with a corresponding relatively big play that was then called back. So that's
Hmm.
not something you really want to see, but hopefully we'll get cleaned up before the actual games matter. But those weren't mostly starters in the game. I think hardly anyone played.
Yeah, I think Chris Jones was in for one snap,
Yeah.
and I did see a couple of stories focusing on backup wide receiver Andrew Armstrong, who had some good blocks apparently that I
Hmm.
saw. He flattened a couple of opponents as a wide receiver blocking,
Hmm.
and Emmett Johnson had a good rushing day for fifth round draft pick out of Nebraska. Had a 58 yards rushing. I think that supposedly looked good as well. But those are the
Yeah.
only stories that I remember positive coming out of the game. I think Nussmeier had some okay moments as the third quarterback. Oladokin didn't play particularly well, which was not surprising.
He had like a run or two that were pretty nice, but I think, and he had one pretty far downfield pass that was like perfect, but the receiver had did not handle it all. Like went like right
Um,
through his hands and then like hit him in his chest. I think basically. Uh, that's a rough way to get an incomplete pass though, right? To basically hit somebody
yes,
in the hands and then have it bounce off of their body before falling incomplete on
yeah,
like a 40 plus yard pass. But nothing you do about it. But yeah, nah. But yeah, I mean, it was good to see Justin Fields out there. He completed all the passes that he threw. Yeah, a couple penalties I think killed the drives that he led though, so you didn't really get to see too much. But I don't know. It was a preseason game. I don't know that you should really put any weight on the preseason performance
Yeah.
of really any kind.
Yeah, I don't think it matters too much the preseason. I don't think there's any correlation between preseason performance and regular season performance. I think sometimes you can tell if the team's gonna be really bad though in the preseason. And we'll see what the Chiefs are coming out of it.
Yeah, but it's especially difficult when the starters don't log any playing time.
Yeah. And I think the Rams seem to have one of the probably deeper rosters in the league.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The,
maybe
the
not.
two touchdowns that the Chiefs did give up were in the fourth quarter, so they
Their
weren't.
fourth quarter, yeah, they're backups to backups playing by that point.
Yeah, so that I think you should weight even less than you would basically anything that you're going to try to like take from this performance,
Hmm.
is because does it matter what like those four stringers sort of do? Like, are they're probably not going to be part of the team of either team,
Was it good to be back
really.
at Arrowhead without the GEHA field logo? It's just Arrowhead Stadium again. Did that feel
Well, they
nice?
still had some GHA stuff like up in the stadium, but it they didn't. It just said it was Arrowhead everywhere. But I don't.
Oh
It
yeah.
was. I didn't expect to see the logo anywhere, but there was still like on the like the inside facade.
Hmm.
There still were like GHA logos and stuff. So they must not be. They must still be a sponsor, but it's
I
not
think they're
maybe
still a
like
sponsor, but they
they're not
decided
that
that
level of sponsor where
I
it's the
think they
name of the
decided that they
stadium.
were probably less popular since they stole the Arrowhead name than
Yeah,
they were before, or they thought, well, they could at least be more subtly sponsored, and they still know who we are at this point. And it's still strange that that company like that, that's a government employees health association, even spends all that money to advertise.
realistically, any health administrative service, if they have free money to spend on sponsorships, that seems odd in
Hmm.
itself. I mean, it seems like that's an issue, a societal issue that needs to be dealt with.
Yes, that money could be going into healthcare outcomes.
What? Yes.
Well, s- speaking of outcomes, do we want to discuss the potential quarterback situations of the various South divisions of the National Football League, the NFC South first, then the AFC South, and we can just go from there. We did the AFC West and NFC West and AFC West last week. We'll do the South this week, the North next week, and then the week after that we'll finish with the Easts. Shall we begin our journey through the NFC South first? We'll
Yes.
start
Let's
we'll
do it.
start going from west to east as is our usual method. We'll start with the New Orleans Saints. They have four quarterbacks on their roster, none of whom are terribly good. I would say either of us think this might be one of the worst quarterback rooms out there. We thought it was bad last year at the beginning of the season, I remember, and it turned out to be pretty bad. Uh, and I still don't, no, I'm still not sure that they have identified the correct starter in New Orleans. They believe that's going to be Tyler Shuck, uh, former second round draft pick out of Louisville in 2025 last year. He also played for Texas Tech and Oregon. He was a decent starter in Louisville. That was the only year he was a full-time starter, at least wasn't or started for the whole season, but was drafted second in the second round by the Saints. He's tall, so he's got that going for him. He's 6'5", 219 pounds. He did play fairly well as a starter for New Orleans in terms of record. Last year, New Orleans was actually 5-4 with Shuck as a quarterback versus one. I think they were 1-8 or something like that with Spencer Rattler as quarterback, but the stats aren't terribly different between the two quarterbacks. I think by the end of the season, the Saints were playing much better as a team. And I don't know if it was maybe correlated with Shucks being there, but I don't know if it was caused by Shuck And I think one of these things that football teams are bad at is the correlation versus causation uh,
Yes.
um, philosophical um, sort of discussion. So mathematical
Yeah,
uh,
data analysis sort of technique to
technique.
tease
Yeah,
out information like that.
yeah. And I don't know if they do that very well or not, but yeah. So he threw 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 216 yards per game passing last year, rating of 91.3. Since we mentioned Spencer Rattler uh, was 1-7. He threw for 198.3 yards per game, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, with a 1-7 record as a starter, 86.5 QB rating. So they were essentially the same level of quarterback. One team won games. They won games with Shuck. They lost games with Rattler, and I don't know if it's because of either of them that they won or they lost. But they seem to think that Shuck is a better quarterback than Rattler, even though Shuck is also a year older than Spencer Rattler. Both of them were born on September 28th. Shuck, despite being a second-year player now, and Rattler a third-year player, Shuck is exactly 1 year older than Rattler, born on September 28th, 1999, to Rattler, September 28th, 2000 birthday. So they'll both be, um, he'll be 27. He'll be 27 this year, and Rattler will be 26. And speaking of 27, well, we'll talk about maybe we'll talk about Rattler first before we get to Zach Wilson. But Rattler, formerly quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, where he was at least at one point thought to be a contender for the Heisman Trophy when Lincoln Riley was the coach, but he was beaten out by Caleb Williams as the quarterback there. Again, beaten out by a top tier level uh, prospect, so not just anybody. He was beaten out by Caleb Williams, and then he went to South Carolina and played pretty well for uh, for South Carolina. Then was only drafted in the fifth round of 2024 draft. He so he was, I think in some ways, the Rattler was the more highly touted player coming out of college. Although if you look at but Rattler is not tall. He doesn't look like a quarterback in the way that Shuck does. Rattler is only about 6 feet even, and 211 pounds. Shuck is 6'5", 219. So Shuck has a 5 inch height advantage, which I think is seen as a big advantage in in the NFL. You don't want to be really short. Just as we talked about, being under 6 feet, I think is a problem. Maybe even just being barely 6 feet tall is also could be a problem. But that seems to maybe be the only reason that Shuck is the starter, is that he's taller than Rattler.
Yeah.
And I guess Kellen Moore likes taller quarterbacks probably,
Yeah. Well,
but I
they
don't.
spent like a little bit higher draft pick on Druck
Yeah, they did
also though,
second
right?
a second round
Two, was
pick.
it two
Yeah,
versus five? Yeah.
yeah. But I think it was in a worse quarterback year than uh Rattler's year was.
Yeah.
2024, there were a lot more. That was the year that they had 6 quarterbacks go in the first round, and then 2025 there were like only a couple of quarterbacks in the first round, I think.
But then there was a big gap though, right? It was Shuck was like kind of a
Can't
surprise
It was like
anyway, right?
Cam Ward and then like maybe somebody else, and then
Yeah.
I can't remember what the 2020. Let me look at the
There
2020.
might there might not have been anybody until because wasn't it that was the year that Sanders was expected to be drafted.
Yeah,
Well,
2025.
and then he fell to like the fifth round or something, right?
Yeah,
And I don't think, yeah, like Shuck wasn't really
because
expected to
Cam
be.
Ward was first, and then Jackson Dart was second at number 25,
Yeah,
and then Shuck was third at number 40 to the Saints. And I think Shuck was the surprise. Jackson
yeah.
Dart was somewhat of a surprise as well, maybe. ahead of Sanders. Sanders dropped all the way to the fifth round too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't. So again, yeah, I'm still of the camp that I'm not a believer in Shuck as being superior to his competition, but it seems like the Saints have picked Shuck to be the starter and are going to ride with him because I think he looks the part of a quarterback more than Rattler does, but he's also it says it's a year older, and he's basically the same age as a quarterback who's already been thought to be a bust in the NFL, uh,
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, who just turned 27 about 2 weeks ago. Uh, so he
So
is,
all the QBs are basically the same age.
yeah, he is, yeah, 2 weeks. He is, let's see, 28th. He's about 2 months older than Tyler Shuck, and he's already been churned in and but thought to be a bust by everybody who's had him. He's been in the NFL now for one, two, three, four, five. This will be his sixth NFL season,
Yeah.
and he's only 2 months older than the second year starter. And somebody who
Right.
also was much more highly touted coming out of college than either of his two competitors. Uh, Zach Wilson was the number two overall draft pick in the 2021 draft by the New York Jets. So, he hasn't had a great career, but he was somebody, at least at one point, thought even more highly of than even his two competitors. So you might think that he would get a legitimate shot at starting in New Orleans, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Maybe he'll be uh, put into backup duty, but maybe he saw a possibility of being the starter. He hasn't really started many games since 2023 when he played for the Jets. He's only attempted 11 passes in the last two seasons. So he didn't play. He was in Denver in 2024, did not play. He was in Miami for 2025 and barely saw the field. So he's somebody who hasn't played very much since his days at BYU. Um, he had really good seasons, a couple really good seasons at BYU, and then parlayed that into a number two overall draft status. And then, is this somewhat similar maybe to a Sam Darnold situation where Sam Darnold was not very good with the New York Jets early on, and then took a little while to develop, and then has actually turned into a pretty solid quarterback. People seem to not think that's going to be the case with Zach Wilson, but I don't, I don't know why that couldn't be the case.
Yeah. Maybe it's a situation where, yeah, the Jets are decent at evaluating talent, but they can't develop talent, or they just don't have enough talent around their picks to actually make them allow them to be successful.
Yeah,
And that seems like a good theory that you could at least test by giving Zach Wilson a little more opportunity than you might some other QBs that are out there.
yeah. He only signed a 1 year, $1.4 million contract, so he's not expected to be a contender
Right.
probably with that low. He signed a 1 year, $6 million contract with the Dolphins last year. So
Yeah, so his contracts aren't getting any longer, and they're getting smaller.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
taking large pay cuts. But yeah, that's
Just to like further your uh insights on seemingly that New Orleans has, chosen Duck to be the number one guy. Maybe not necessarily for the correct reasons, though. Do you know what opponents they had each of the QBs face, though? So, like during the early season losing, Rattler did have to face the 49ers, Seattle, Buffalo, and New England in his stretch.
hmm.
And some of the wins that Shuck got were against Carolina, the Jets, Tennessee.
So yeah, oh, that's interesting. The schedule was
So it was like life
planted
at the end, and they
planted
did lose
against
to Atlanta at the end of the year too, which is not a great. game, and
Mhm.
they lost to Miami also before that. Actually, they lost to Atlanta twice in that stretch with Shuck at QB. But
Yeah,
so
they had an easier stretch of games against those opponents. Yeah, that goes well with my theory that I think maybe Shuck is not the answer. Then there's a fourth quarterback though in New Orleans that also probably is not the answer, but he uh, maybe the Saints could gamble on his abilities and put him in the game. That is Hunter Deckers, former Iowa State quarterback. He was quarterback for Iowa State as a starter after Brock Purdy was there. He started the season after Purdy left, had a 4-8 record, a decent 19 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, decent job there, but he failed to play anymore at Iowa State because he was involved in a gambling scandal. Not that different from uh, Mr. Sorsby, from Brendan Sorsby's gambling.
yes,
So maybe a little less money was involved, but so he ended up leaving Iowa State and only played one more year, and that was at Iowa Western Community College, where he had a very good year, but he's playing against community college opponents. But he was picked up on the practice squad last year, was an off-season kind of pickup, so he was frequently released and brought back and released and brought back. And then he played for the aptly named Houston Gamblers of the UFL last season before re-signing with the Saints. So he's either a gambler or a Saint. Uh,
one or the other, Mike.
He has a redemption story coming, but yeah, but yeah, so he's the fourth quarterback. He is 6'2", 210 pounds from Hawarden, Iowa. Do you
Hmm.
know where Hawarden, Iowa is?
Never heard of it.
He went to West Sioux High School in Hawarden, Iowa.
Hmm.
Grew up on a cattle farm. It's Sioux County, Iowa,
That's
in the
like it must be in the northwest side of,
yeah, extreme northwest,
yeah.
located.
So Sioux
Hawarden
City
is
is
on the
nearby
Big
there.
Sioux River. Hawarden was named for Hawarden Castle, the Welsh home of statesman William Gladstone, former English Prime Minister. So that's what it was named after. It has 2,700 people in Hawarden.
Oh,
Oh,
unaware of its existence until just now, Mike.
yes.
No.
No. There have been at least two NFL players from Hawarden besides Hunter Deckers.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, Hawarden, Iowa, the home of, yeah, and uh, he is 25 years old, Hunter Decker. So he's not really a spring chicken either for being a rookie-ish quarterback. The only quarterback that was drafted young was Zach Wilson, and they labeled him a bust early on, and he seems to be somebody that I still think maybe he's probably the best quarterback of those, or has the potential to be the best quarterback of that group of four. I would say that it's Wilson, then Rattler, then Shuck, then Deckers probably, but I don't think that's the way it's going to shake out. I'm sure it's going to be Shuck on top, and then maybe a battle between Rattler and Wilson, and then I could see the winner of that becoming the starter by the end of the season if Shuck doesn't play particularly well, which there's no reason that he will, but
Right.
maybe he's somebody that's a diamond in the rough. I don't know. I'm not a professional quarterback evaluator, but just looking at it from the outside, it doesn't look like he is somebody that is necessarily any better than his competitor than his competition.
And I think we did take a look at who what their usage was in the first game, and Shuck looks like did not play, as you might expect first string QB to play.
Hmm.
in order to not play in the first game, and Rattler did come in second. Was first in the game, so he was the second, presumably the second QB playing with the first team, whatever the
Hmm.
first team is. But yeah, so it's in the order they played in the order that you guessed. Players that were on the team last year early. But yeah, nobody did anything crazy. Zach Wilson looks like he probably had the most success. He did throw a touchdown pass. He was 11 of 16, 145 yards, one TD, no picks.
Hmm. Okay.
So I mean, that's a decent performance though. But it is a former starting NFL QB playing against the likely, late second to third string players of an opponent.
Yeah.
So you would hope that he would do well in that scenario.
Yeah, but he's also, I guess, got the second and third string of his own players that he's throwing to as well. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah, it's hard to, yeah,
yeah.
hard to say. But, um, yeah, so that's New Orleans. Should we move on to the
Um,
Atlanta?
may just mention very quickly though that New Orleans is the lowest. They're spending the least amount of money on their QBs of any team in the NFL.
Yeah,
So that,
you can see that. Yeah,
yeah,
get
there we
what
go.
you pay for, I guess, in New Orleans.
Yes.
Speaking
Yeah.
of, I think also paying not very much for quarterbacks, we have the Atlanta Falcons, who I believe are fairly low on that list as well because they're yeah,
49.
their starting presumed starter or one of the possible starters is they're not paying because Miami is paying them, and or a draft pick on his rookie salary scale. So let's go to Atlanta and should we start with Michael Penix Jr. or do we start with Tua Tagovailoa?
Probably. I mean, if you're going in order of what you who you expect to be starting, I assume NX. He's the holdover from last year, or
Yeah,
or
we'll start.
is or is two has two already been announced as
Well, Tua's they've
number
already
one.
both of them have already been injured, and they had to bring in Cooper Rush, their third quarterback, to help out. So each of them have already been hurt, I think, in the preseason. So
That's not a great start.
yeah, I think each of them has been injured, from what I remember. But let's start with Michael Penix. Michael Penix is actually 26 years old, and he was a first round draft pick, eighth overall, coming out of the University of Washington. He had also played for Indiana for a few years before that, so he played six total seasons in college. So he's 26 years old, even though he'd be entering his third season in the NFL. Um, he was from Florida. He was grew up in Florida, played for Indiana and Washington, where was very good at Washington in his 2022-2023 seasons there. Um, but he's been kind of iffy in the pros. He started three games in 2024, where he supplanted Kirk Cousins, began to pass up Kirk Cousins as on the depth chart, and he started nine games last year. The total 4-8 record, um, 84.5 quarterback rating, 12 touchdowns, six interceptions. Not very many touchdowns and interceptions, but only less about 200 yards per game. So he doesn't throw. He doesn't. He threw for 220 yards per game last year, which is a lot more than he threw for his rookie year. But not a whole lot of passing. He was primarily, I think, giving the ball to Bijan Robinson and hoping for the best. Yeah, Atlanta was not very great, not a very good team, but yeah. So Penix is one of three left-handed starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Do you know who the other two are? One of them plays for the Atlanta Falcons now. That is Tua Tagovailoa, the next quarterback on our list. They're
Is
both
he?
left.
I'd forgotten that he was left-handed even.
They're
Yeah.
both left-handed. Yeah,
Huh.
Dylan Gabriel uh,
Oh.
is the other left-handed quarterback who has
Huh.
started some games last year
Hmm.
for the Browns. We'll get to Dylan Gabriel when we talk about the Browns. But yeah, so Tua. I mean, Tua was brought in from Miami this past offseason. He is 28 years old himself, so only 2 years older than Michael Penix is, about 2.5 years older than Michael Penix. But he's been in the NFL now for 6 seasons. This will be his seventh season in the league. He's compiled a decent record as a starter, 44 and 32 record as a starter in 76 games started. He's thrown for over 4,500 yards in a season. He's um, thrown for as many as 29 touchdowns. He's at a quarterback rating of over 100, 3 straight years in the league. Not last year, but the previous 3 years. So he's had some success in the NFL under Mike McDaniel, especially when he was the coach in Miami. But he has an injury history, of course, especially the bad history of concussions, which is the most alarming thing about Tua. And you think if he has one more concussion, he's probably out of the league. He's probably not going to play anymore. I would say hopefully he does not play anymore. He's
Also
had
some like terrible like hip injuries too, which you don't
Yeah.
usually expect from like a youngish
Yeah, he
person
had a
to
bad
have
hip
like that
injury in
kind of hip
college.
injury
Yeah, yeah. So
history.
he's had a lot of injury history.
Yeah.
Uh, but he has led quarterbacks to the playoffs. I mean, he's led teams to the playoffs before. So you think maybe he's challenging Penix for the starting role in in Atlanta. He's not being paid very much by Atlanta. He's being paid mostly by Miami, who just signed him to a big contract just a couple of years ago. So I think it's one of those two quarterbacks is going to be the starter for the Falcons. The third quarterback who was brought in because I think both Penix and Tua were injured in training camp, at least at various points of training camp, is Cooper Rush, former Dallas Cowboys backup quarterback. He played for the Cowboys most of his career. He played for the Ravens last year. He started 16 games in his career, has gone 9-7 in those games, replacing Dak Prescott primarily. And he actually did pretty well in his stints replacing Dak, at least for a couple of years for Dallas in 2022 and 2024. He had some pretty good seasons, but not in terms of stats, but at least allowing the Cowboys giving them a chance to win the games that he played in. So Cooper Rush is probably third quarterback, but maybe a good third quarterback to have former Central Michigan undrafted quarterback in the year 2017. So he was from the same year as Patrick Mahomes draft class, and he is as 32 years old. He'll be 33 in November. That's Cooper Rush, the third quarterback, and then we have a fourth quarterback in Atlanta, Jack Strand, former quarterback for Minnesota State Moorhead. Do you know where Moorhead, Minnesota is located?
I don't. I have no idea.
I'm not quite sure. Oh, it's um next to Fargo, North Dakota. So it's the Fargo Moorhead metropolitan area. So it's right across
Oh.
the the border, uh
The western side of
the western, yeah, the red on the banks of the
Minnesota.
Red River in north on the edge of North Dakota and Minnesota, Moorhead,
Hmm.
Minnesota.
Hmm.
So way up north, he played at Division II Minnesota State Moorhead, and he was a solid player, but it was a Division II player. He threw for 42 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 3,500 yards his senior year. So, he's been full-time starter for three seasons at Minnesota State Moorhead, but he's a Division two player. So it's hard to say what level he'd be in competition. He's big though. He's about 6'4", 240 pounds. So he is a large uh larger guy as quarterback. So that's probably size was what maybe attracted him to the NFL scouts. He was undrafted in 2026 coming out this year. So he just came out. Uh, he is 22 years old, however, so he's much younger than his competitors. So he's the average age then of a college senior coming out of the
Yeah,
draft. So something that maybe is gives him some more development time. But that's the fourth quarter. Jack Strand, whose name
Jack's
apparently is just Jack Strand. I don't, at least on Wikipedia, he doesn't have a middle name, or I don't know if Jack is his full first name or a
he's not a
nickname.
John Jr.
Yeah, not or Jackson Strand or something. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
It does not look like the first preseason game was terribly exciting for offensive stats for Atlanta. Looks like they had a lot of punting, a lot of uh, just very short drives that mostly were punts. They did get one touchdown. Which quarterback do you think led the drive for the touchdown, Mike?
I guess Cooper Rush.
It was not. It was actually Strand
It was Jack Strand. The only
who did. But it took a Denver fumble in a short field to allow Atlanta to get a touchdown in the third quarter. So
okay.
uh, they did looks like they did play roughly in the order you would expect. Uh, Penix did not play, meaning he's either injured or is the number one QB. Tua played the first drive or two drives. Very little done there. 3 for 5, 22 yards. Rush was second. Not very great. 7 of 19 for 62 yards. Two picks.
Ooh,
And then Strand was 6 of 12 for 50 yards, but he had a 1 yard TD run,
Uchidi run. Good for him.
which got
Uh,
Atlanta their one score.
wow. That's Atlanta. Yeah, I don't think Atlanta has a. I don't know. I think Penix is still a developmental quarterback. I think Tua, if he's healthy, can be an above average quarterback.
But won't have the wide receiving targets that he had
Yeah, there's no Tyreek
in
Hill,
Miami.
no
No
Jalen
Tyreek
Waddle.
Hill, no Jalen Waddle. Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. No, like crazy running game either, which is like Achan and like the
Well, he's
dynamic
got
sort of.
he's got Bijan Robinson, so he's going to be a good.
But he's more like a handoff, not
Yeah,
like a.
a
They're
pass
not.
a passing pass
They're not
receiver.
like the receiving, like the dual threat sort of running
Yeah,
back to help him get his own stats, right?
yeah, uh,
Right.
yeah. I guess Kyle Pitts, maybe the tight end who supposedly seems to be always the up and coming tight end of the NFL that has never quite lived up to his potential, is still there in Atlanta as well. But we'll see what happens with Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting quarterback room. I think it's easy to say it's probably better than New Orleans, even though they both are kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of price. Uh, but I think because you have a first round pick, and you have
Right.
two former first round picks with Tua
Yeah.
there, and
And a career backup with experience in
yeah,
rush.
Cooper Rush,
And then still this developmental player then too with
the Jack Strand.
Strand. Yes.
Okay.
So seems
Well,
like they're ahead of New Orleans, but still maybe not the best off of teams in this division, presumably. Hopefully for their
yeah.
sakes.
Yes. So we have also similar something kind of similar going on in Tampa Bay, our next stop on the NFC South tour. Although we have a starter and quarterback that we know who the starter is going to be, and that's Baker Mayfield, somebody who has had some success as well, but also somebody who's had some not so great seasons as a starter. Just sort of inconsistent, up and down years. He was probably he's been the starter now for three straight seasons in Tampa. Last year was probably his maybe one of his worst seasons. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't quite as good as he was the previous year. He had 41 touchdowns thrown in 2024, only 26 thrown in 2025. So it went down. But there were a lot of receiver injuries, I think, last year. I think most of his receivers were injured, at least a lot of the year. Um, but Baker Mayfield, I remember, was touted at least in 2024 as a potential MVP candidate, at least through part of the season before the end of it. But yeah, the Buccaneers finished 8-9, but Mayfield has kind of shown he's a decent starter in the NFL and maybe somebody who deserves a longer term deal. I don't think he's gotten that deal. I think he's been trying to get the long-term contract signed, and that hasn't happened. Mayfield still is only he's 31 years old.
This is the last year of his deal, so this is like a
Yeah.
make or break year for him, right?
Yeah, he's 31 years old, 6'1", 215, drafted in the first round, first overall in 2018 by the Cleveland Browns. He played, of course, for Cleveland for a few years, led them to the playoffs one year, and then went to Carolina and the Rams in 2022, and then has been with the Buccaneers the last three seasons as their starter. Uh, so he was jettisoned from Cleveland when Deshaun Watson became available, and that has turned out not so well for Cleveland, um, and not so great either for Mayfield for a while. But it seems like he's really come around the last couple of years in Tampa as their number one starter. He's a gritty player. Maybe he's better than what his physical attributes are, but he's kind of maybe somewhat limited as well in terms of his overall upside as a quarterback. He's not a top 10 quarterback for sure, but maybe somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and a lot of times even though the team may be doing well, like he usually is involved in getting them the win, but it might be, with a not so impressive line though too, right? Like like 120 yards, but 60 of them were on the last drive. That was the game-winning touchdown kind of play, right? Like that's
Yeah.
seems like that's like he's won more games like that than he's won by putting up huge numbers, right?
Yeah, yeah, um he put up huge numbers back in college when he played for Oklahoma. He also
Yeah.
played for Texas Tech briefly before he transferred to Oklahoma. But yeah, he won the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma, uh, and then was one of the first of two consecutive Oklahoma quarterback Heisman Trophy winners. Kyler Murray followed him the next year to win the Heisman, and then Jalen Hurts almost won it the year after that for Oklahoma the third year. So. Oklahoma had a good run with Lincoln Riley as the quarterback coach. I think, and the offensive coordinator and the head coach, at least during part of that time. I think Stoops was still the coach when Mayfield was there. But yeah, so Mayfield, solid quarterback. He maybe did not become the star that people thought he might be coming uh, out of college when he was had those progressive insurance commercials and things like that. He's not
Yeah.
uh he's was the number one overall pick, but hasn't been quite uh that level in the NFL, but still a solid player. He's definitely the number one quarterback. Probably number two is Jake Browning, longtime backup in Cincinnati. Uh, he played at the University of Washington, undrafted in 2019. He was with the Vikings for a few years on the practice squad, then with the Bengals for 5 seasons, and now with the Buccaneers. Um, He did start a few games for Cincinnati over when Joe Burrow was injured. Did fairly well in Joe Burrow's absence. So I think that's probably why he was brought in as the backup in Tampa Bay, because he played pretty well in Burrow's absence. As a former University of Washington quarterback, um, Jake Browning, uh, probably again not there as the challenge Mayfield as the starter, but probably the only but a capable backup who can win some games if necessary. You have anything to say about Jake Browning?
No.
No. No. Um, we'll
I
move on.
remember him being mentioned. I remember like really nothing about him though. Did you remember that about him, or is that
I
from
remember that.
your
I
research leading into this?
no, I remember he was the backup to the Burrow
Yeah,
for Cleveland, and then they did okay in Burrow's
yeah.
absence. Um, and then we have two other quarterbacks, both of whom are developmental, it seems like, for so yeah, so Browning is 30 years old. Baker Mayfield is 31. Then the two developmental quarterbacks, probably the older of the two, I believe, is Connor Bazelak, former Mizzou quarterback for a period in 2019 through 21. Do you remember him as a Mizzou quarterback?
No, I never really followed Mizzou that closely,
When
so
they went to the SEC, I think probably I haven't followed them as
yeah.
much there. Um, they played for
I
Indiana and then Bowling Green. So he had
uh,
several. He bounced
couple
around a lot,
stops.
a lot of stops. Never he threw 18 touchdowns in a season was his most touchdown passes. 3,044 yards for Bowling Green in 13 games. Not really a running quarterback. 6 feet 2.5. So tall, not short, but not super tall either. 25 years old out of Dayton, Ohio. He'll be 26 in uh, in about a month in September 22nd. So he's not young either as a developmental quarterback. He was undrafted in 2025 on the practice squad last year for the Buccaneers, a third team all MAC quarterback in 2024. That's about the best they can say about it. So not a highly touted prospect, but somebody who was okay in college.
I hope
28.
that was like the on his hype reel
Yeah,
as like the
third.
tagline for him.
He was the
Eh,
SEC co-freshman of the year in 2020 when he played for Mizzou during the COVID season. But yeah, so he so it's Connor Bazelak, and he's competing with Jalen Daniels, former University of Kansas starting quarterback. So we have a Mizzou guy versus a KU guy.
yes.
Jalen Daniels, uh, undrafted this past fall, coming out of KU. Never had a great record at the University of Kansas, but he started at least 3 games across 6 seasons at KU. So he started in 2020, the COVID year, and played all the way through 2025.
Hmm.
And last year was his most successful year, 22 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Also, sort of a running threat at quarterback, uh, rushing for over 400 yards multiple times in the season. So yeah, he played for KU, led KU to 5-7, was 5-7, 2 straight years for KU. KU's been a little bit better in football the last couple of years than they had been prior to that, but still not a great football school. But yeah, he is the other developmental quarterback. He is 23 years old. He'll be 24 in October. So, not super young either. We have a lot of these. It seems like that seems to be the story that we have a lot of older prospects now in the NFL. Partly, I think, because the COVID year, we still are experiencing people who
Hmm.
played that year still and got an extra year of eligibility, and because the NIL money, people are staying in college longer. In the transfer portal, they're transferring to more schools so they can
There's
play longer. So
less
it's
incentive to leave, right?
yeah,
If you can get paid in college now. Yeah.
yeah. But that's Jalen Daniels. So we have probably Mayfield, then Browning, and then a battle between Bazelak and Daniels as the developmental
So that
quarterback, I guess.
that does look to be the way Tampa played out their preseason game. They only had Bazelak and Daniels play.
Hmm.
Looks like Bazelak got the first half, Daniels got the second. They had relatively similar numbers. Bazelak 12, 20, 72 yards. Neither threw a touchdown or had an interception. Daniels was 10 of 15 for 111 yards. Daniels did have a rushing touchdown though, so Bazelak put up 10 points under Bazelak. Team put up 14 under Daniels in the second
Hmm.
half. So I don't know that any of that means anything though, really. So
I don't either, but we can think about that as we move on to the Carolina Panthers.
yes. But maybe you just say that like neither seems to be a complete disaster.
No, I think
Nobody neither of them played themselves off of the team by their
yeah,
performances.
yeah. I
There.
think probably so far Mayfield is the best quarterback of the
Yeah.
NFC. He's probably the best in the whole division, I would
In the
guess.
division, yeah. Even too, yeah.
I think even though we haven't talked about the um, Carolina Panthers yet, but we'll talk about Carolina now. They also have four quarterbacks in their stable of quarterbacks. Starting, I guess we'll start with the presumed starters. Going to be Bryce Young, who was drafted number one overall in 2023 out of Alabama. One of like his fellow pocket passer, Kyler Murray. He's only about 5'10", so a small guy. Uh, was uh, a decent runner. Has not run as much in the NFL as he did in college, or he ran a little bit more. Actually, he actually run a little bit more in the NFL than he did in college. He didn't run very much in college at all for Alabama. Um, but yes, 5'10" and 1/8 he was coming out in the NFL Combine. But yeah, he's played parts of three seasons now for Carolina. Started most of the games across those three seasons. His rookie year, he was only 2-14, but last year his record as starter was 8-8. So he's been improving as in terms of record as the time has gone on. His stats have gotten better. He's been steadily improving as time has gone on, and uh, he's 25. He's just turned 25 years old, so this will be his fourth NFL season, and he's just 25 now. So he's also a little bit on the younger side compared to some of the other quarterbacks. So he's as young or younger than Tyler Shuck and other of his ilk.
Yes.
He's actually 2 years younger than Tyler Shuck, I believe, who was born in 1999. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's so we have as a starter Bryce Young, and then as the backup probably Kenny Pickett. So maybe Pickett could challenge as the potential starter. You think if Young falters, but probably Pickett's probably penciled in as the backup. Pickett
Yeah.
himself is a first round draft pick out of Pitt, 2022. Uh, he is 28 years old. He played for the Steelers for his first 2 years, his hometown Steelers, or at least the college town Steelers. He's from New
Yeah.
Jersey originally, uh, but he played for the Steelers. Then he bounced to the Eagles, then to the Browns, then to the Raiders, and now to the Panthers. So he's bounced around quite a bit. This is his fifth team already in his young career since 2022. This is only his fourth NFL season. Uh, he has had some success as a starter, uh, 14-10 in 2 years at Pittsburgh. He's 16-11 overall as a starter. not great stats, but somebody he's only thrown 16 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. Doesn't throw for a whole lot of yards either. He's thrown about 5,000 yards in his 4 years of playing, but a decent a decent backup probably, and maybe a fringe starter who could still um, maybe challenge for the starting role if things went right for him. But he's probably seems to be a career backup at this point. 6'3", so much bigger guy than Bryce Young is, more of that standard quarterback size. And yeah, he's former Pitt Panther, Pittsburgh Steeler, and now eventually Carolina Panther. So he's back to the Panthers. Maybe a Panthers can be a success for him.
Do you think that's what drew him to Carolina was because of the Panther nickname from his college days?
Possibly, possibly.
We can't say no.
No, we can't say no. Yeah, so the Panthers, um, first two quarterbacks, and then probably the third quarterback is Kyle Trask, who also looks like a quarterback. He's 6'5", former second round draft pick out of uh, Florida, 2021. He was with, and this is the third team that Trask has played for, and all three teams have been in the NFC South. He played for the Buccaneers from 2021 to 2024. He was with the Falcons practice squad last year, and now he is with the Panthers. So it seems like he only plays in the NFC South. He's from the University of Florida, so also from the South. Played very well uh, in college. His 2 seasons as a starter at Florida, which led to him being uh, picked up in the second round, and was thought, at least at one point, to be a challenger to Baker Mayfield for the starting position there. But when Mayfield won that job, Trask ended up leaving Tampa Bay and now eventually landed in um, Carolina. He's only attempted 11 NFL passes, so it's hard to say. He doesn't have much experience, but he's 28 years old. Um, but he has, yeah, I just had only thrown 11 NFL passes, so not very much experience. But so you would think of him as the third quarterback. He was actually just signed August 9th, so he was only signed a few days ago
Oh,
by Carolina, so he wasn't even on the roster until just a few days ago. So he's, I guess,
yeah.
brought in maybe as a camp body, um, or maybe because he was seen as a better shot than 2026 than the undrafted quarterback Haynes King, uh, who was just undrafted out of Georgia Tech and Texas A&M, brought in 2026. He actually is 25 years old. Haynes King as a rookie. Uh, he led Georgia Tech to 3 consecutive seasons with a winning record, uh, but had his best season in terms of numbers, touchdown numbers. It looks like he had his best season in 2023, although he threw a lot of interceptions that year. But he also was a running quarterback as well, ran for a lot of yards in his 3 seasons at Georgia Tech, nearly 1,000 yards last year. So he's a dual threat quarterback, 6'2.5", 212 pounds. Um, the developmental quarterback, I would guess. But still not a young guy. He's 25 years old, born January 9th, 2001. He is 6 months older than starter Bryce Young is, who's in his fourth NFL season, also 25 years old. So um, now they're one of those kind of old quarterbacks coming out of college being picked up by NFL teams. So yeah, so Young still is lives up to his name, is still young as a quarterback. He's the youngest.
even with guys with far less experience.
Yeah, he's the youngest of the four quarterbacks, and he's going to be the starter too, probably.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's no real veteran in the Carolina quarterback room, but there have been a few guys that have been around for a few years now, but there's no like older there's no Cooper Rush type or even somebody like that as a backup. So there's not a lot, but there's some, but but three out of the four quarterbacks were drafted in the first or second round. Haynes King was the only one that wasn't. He's um,
But they have three guys that have at least some NFL experience.
yeah.
Yeah. And it does look like King was injured in the after either in the end of the Hall of Fame game or shortly thereafter because he played looks like most of that game and then he looks like he played okay. It looks like he played really well actually, but it looks like he has a hamstring injury, so that's why they picked up Trask. So
Hmm.
Carolina already, has already played a second preseason game now, so we have a little more information on them than anybody else for like how they're actually playing their QBs this year. So yeah, Kenny Pickett started the Hall of Fame game a week ago, and then Haynes King played second. Yeah, 21 of 34, 180 yards and two touchdowns from King.
Hmm.
Not bad. It is the Hall of Fame game, so like, really nobody's playing in that one, right?
Hmm.
And then the second game, uh, they Pickett started, and then oh no, sorry, Bryce Young actually started and was not very good. I think the team had three drives under Young, and they only had about 12 yards total gain, three punts. And then Pickett played second competently. Trask was kind of okay, I guess, at the end, but they had a tougher assignment in like against Buffalo in that second game. But yeah, it looks like King's expected to be out for at least a little while. Hence the Trask signing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the NFC South for us. Uh, do you want any general? We've kind of said some general words of wisdom about the NFC South. Should we just move on to the AFC South?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't. I
You know,
mean, this was probably our at least of the divisions that we were looking forward to spending a lot of time on. I guess, right?
yeah, yeah. Now we're on to the AFC
Yeah.
South. We'll start with the farthest western AFC South team. That's the Houston Texans. They have three quarterbacks on their only three quarterbacks on the roster, but they have one quarterback who's on injured reserve, so we might mention him as well. Um, so their starting quarterback will be CJ Stroud, of course, uh, former Ohio State quarterback who's still only 24 years old. We talked
Yeah.
about how um, he'll be 25 in October, so he's a couple months younger even than Bryce Young is. But we talk about the you know the we keep harping on the youth of prospects, and Stroud is younger than Dylan Shuck and people like that. Will be his fourth season in the NFL. He's still only 24 years old. He'll be 25 later in the season. Coleridge, Bernard, Stroud the fourth, CJ. Uh, Probably for Coleridge Jr. We that's our guess for CJ, even though he's the fourth. Former second overall pick in 2023 behind Bryce Young, but he's 6'3", unlike Young, taller, uh, led Houston to the playoffs three consecutive years as a starter. He's actually won a playoff game each of his 3 years as a starter as well. He's 3-3 in the playoffs, so he's a solid quarterback. last year he's kind of gone downhill in terms of individual numbers since his rookie year. He threw for 273 yards per game in his rookie season. He's only averaged about 218 yards per game in his two follow-up seasons. So not he played better in 2023 than he has any other season, but all, he's still a solid quarterback. Maybe somebody who has still something left to prove to see if he can be in that kind of upper echelon of quarterbacks. But he's still young, looking at his age compared to a lot of his competitors. So do you think there's still, he's 24, and that's what a lot of quarterbacks seems like they're coming out of the draft already are 24, 25 years old. So um, yeah, so I think CJ Stroud is still very has a lot of upside left, a lot of potential left for him. And then the guys behind CJ Stroud, I'm not sure what the order will be. Uh, we'll maybe we'll mention. Let's go off. We'll go alphabetically. Um, we have Davis Mills, former Stanford quarterback drafted in 2021 by the Houston Texans in the third round. So he's been with Houston for a while. He was the primary starter for Houston in 2021 and 2022 before CJ Stroud took over. Did not have as much success record-wise. He did fill in for Stroud in 3 games last year as the starter, and he went 3-0 as a starter. Um, while Stroud was injured last year. So it seems like he's probably the backup since just because his performance last year.
Yeah.
Um, but Stroud, yeah, former Davis Mills, former Stanford University quarterback, 6 foot, almost 6'4", so also has tall, kind of lanky guy. Uh, didn't play very much at Stanford. He only started 11 total games across 2 seasons. One of those was the COVID year, so maybe not just didn't play as much. But yeah, he's likely, I would say likely the second quarterback in Houston. But they did bring in Davis. They got Davis to challenge Davis Mills. Maybe they brought in Brett Rippon. This will be his first year in Houston. Brett Rippon, the I believe nephew of former Washington Redskins quarterback Mark Rippon, has already played for 10 teams in the NFL. He's stopped for most of them. A lot of these have been practice squad only. He was with the Broncos. He was a 2019 undrafted free agent coming out of Boise State. He was with the Broncos for 4 years, and then 3 teams in 2023, 2 more in 2024, 3 more in 2025, and now with Houston this year. So he's really bounced around a lot. And yeah, I don't think he's been with any team twice. I think he's been every team is no, he's with the Vikings. He was 2 stints with the Vikings. So I guess this is his ninth team, excuse me, um, that he's played for. Uh, he has uh, he's started 4 games in the NFL, 4 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Not a great record. I mean, not a great statistical record in his performance, but most of that was for Denver back in the early 2020s when he started there. He also started a game for the Rams in 2023, but he hasn't thrown a pass since 2023. But he led Boise State to some good seasons in the late teens. But yeah, he's signed with the Houston Texans because there was a preseason injury to the Texans' third quarterback, Kansas City native Graham Mertz. Do you remember Graham? Remember us talking about Graham Mertz last year? No relation to Fred or Ethel
I
Mertz.
believe that's the only reason I remember the name was because of that
Yeah, he's from
reference.
Overland Park, Kansas. He's 25 years old. How old is Brett Rippon? He's got to be 30. He's 30, Brett Rippon. So, and Davis Mills is
He's 7 or 28.
he's 27. He'll be 28. He'll be 28 in October. Yeah. So, but Graham Mertz is the young. He's 25, former quarterback for Wisconsin for 4 seasons, and then for Florida for 2 seasons. Sixth round pick of the 2025 draft, former Blue Valley North high school graduate. Uh, he was originally started at Bishop Miege High School, where he was the backup to All-State quarterback Carter Putz.
You'd like
P-U-T.
to have Mertz and Putz as your
Mertz.
options.
That's your option. Yes. Then he went to Blue
Mertz
Valley.
and Putz and Mertz and Putz.
Yeah.
You just go back and forth between the two, wouldn't you?
Yes. Mertz. But yeah, Mertz is 6'2", 216 pounds. Uh, had some good records at Wisconsin. Some decent stats at Florida as well, but didn't. He had an injury in 2024, so he didn't finish the season. He had an ACL tear against Tennessee, so he missed most of the 2024 season, but was still drafted in the sixth round out of um, Florida. But yeah, he played 6 seasons in college. Actually, he's 6'3", 3 3/8 tall. It says he's 6'2" in one of his things, but he's 6'3", 3/8 according to the
Hmm.
NFL Combine. So tallish Mertz. Um, yeah. Oh, he tore his ACL again in the 2026 preseason. So he's placed on season-ending injured reserve at August 15th. So he's not going to play this year. So poor Graham Mertz.
Yeah, looks like he was injured in the first preseason game against the Chargers.
But yeah, he's 25. Um, Mertz. So yeah, that's the Houston Texans quarterback room. So we have CJ Stroud, probably then Davis Mills, I would guess, and then third quarterback Brett Rippon brought in to replace Graham Mertz as the third quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's the maybe that's the easiest so far of the who's on
Predicting the hierarchy of the QBs
hierarchy.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in the first preseason game they just played Mills and Mertz and mm, they played kind of in the order that you would expect and with the success that you would also expect. Mills had a little bit more success than Mertz, then apparently was injured, so yeah. Not really a whole lot to say about their first preseason game. They didn't look like they didn't do a whole lot against the Chargers. Nothing too exciting here, Mike.
Nothing too exciting. Well, we do have three more teams to discuss in the AFC South. Moving west, I mean, moving east from the Texans, we are now with the former Houston team. That is the Tennessee Titans, who were once the Houston Oilers, of course. They also have four quarterbacks on their depth chart. Um, it's probably also easy to pick their starter for the Texans. That is going to not for the Texans, for the Titans. That's going to be Cam Ward, number one overall draft pick last year out of the University of Miami. He's 24 years old as well. Um, just like CJ Stroud. He was 3-14 as a starter last year with Tennessee. Threw for 15 touchdowns, only seven interceptions of 32 about 3,200 yards. He played for Incarnate Word is where he started in college. Do you know what state Incarnate Word University is located in?
Yeah.
It's in San Antonio. It's in the University of Incarnate Word is a Catholic university, of course, in San Antonio, Texas. It's a Division I FCS school. No, they've
You hear about it every once in a while. I never thought to
incarnate,
try to place actually where it was though.
yeah, Incarnate Word.
Yeah.
And then he played for Washington State for 2 years, and then Miami in 2024, where he was drafted number one overall after his time at Miami. And probably most famous for playing only the first half against Iowa State in the 2024 Pop-Tarts Bowl. Do you remember that Iowa State ended up winning, I believe, didn't they? Because Cam Ward only played the first half.
No, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah,
But
they
the most
lost.
memorable thing from those games
Was
is the devouring of the mascot at the end of the game, though,
yeah,
right?
the self-sacrifice of the Pop-Tart turning into many, many small Pop-Tarts. But yeah, Iowa State won that game 42 to 41.
And feasted on the remains of their vanquished Pop-Tart enemy.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, Cam Ward will be uh, no no relation to the incarnate word, but Cam Ward, Ward, um, will be trying to improve upon his rookie season, which wasn't really much of a success. The Titans were pretty bad last year, but he's we'll see what Ward is up to. Ward ended up becoming the starter at least game one because he beat out former second round draft pick Will Levis for the starting position. I think Will Levis was injured last year. I can't remember. Was he? Um, Yeah, prior to
Hmm?
2025, he was put on IR, so he wasn't even competing for the job against Cam Ward last year.
Yeah.
But Levis did have a did start parts of two seasons for the Titans. Probably Levis was a second round draft pick out of Kentucky. He also played for Penn State. He's 27 years old now. Probably most famous for his love of mayonnaise, I would guess, is Levis's claim to fame, at least thus far in the NFL. Um, Big guy, but not too much success as a starter. 5-16 record as a starter, but 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Uh, Not that different from Cam Ward, who's only 3-14 as a starter. But it seems like Levis is probably going to be the second quarterback, and Ward is going to be the number one quarterback because um, he's drafted, of course, number one overall. So you're going to have that guy be your starter.
Yeah.
So Levis competing as the backup against um,
A more seasoned
more seasoned backup. Yeah,
backup, though,
Mitchell
right?
Mitchell Trubisky, former second overall pick in 2017, famously picked ahead of Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 NFL draft, the first quarterback taken. Mahomes was the second quarterback taken in the 2017 draft by the Chiefs. Trubisky was the first taken by the Chicago Bears. He's played for the Bears, the Bills, Steelers, back to the Bills the last 2 years as the backup, and now is with the Titans as a potential backup quarterback, former University of North Carolina quarterback. Again, once thought to be a really high level prospect, but has kind of settled into backup quarterback territory his last few years in the NFL. Decent, he did decently um, for the Bears for a little while, but then has kind of settled into the backup role with the Steelers and the Bills the last few years. He did play a few games as a starter for the Steelers in 2023, but he hasn't. That was the last game that he had started was in 2023. He's a career 31 and 26 record as a starter, 78 touchdowns to 48 interceptions, an 86.9 quarterback rating. So not terrible, but not great either. Started two playoff games for the Bears, so he's more experienced than Levis is, and maybe somebody that could beat out Levis, you would think, for the backup job if needed. He might be the second quarterback instead of the third quarterback. It's one of those things as well where you might have I don't know if you have Trubisky as in-game backup quarterback, but then if you're going to start a new game, you want Levis to start or something like that. It's one of those things where sometimes the more experienced guy you want to come in and would be the relief pitcher, but you might not have him start a full game if you have enough time to prepare. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say what they're going to do with Trubisky versus Levis. Maybe they'll keep all three, but but then there's also Hendon Hooker on the roster, former Detroit Lions draft pick in 2023, a third round draft pick in 2023, who's 28 years old now, former University of Tennessee and Virginia Tech quarterback, tore his ACL right before he was before he was drafted. So he was drafted in the third round, but he was thought to be at least at one point maybe Detroit's quarterback of the future behind Jared Goff, but that never developed. He's bounced around with the Panthers and the Jets last year, and now with the Titans this year. So maybe again trying to latch on to the Titans roster, but he's I would say probably number four on the outside looking in is Hendon Hooker, but um, yeah, he signed in April 2026 with the Tennessee Titans. So entering training camp behind Cam Ward, Mitchell Trubisky, and Will Levis. 6'3", 217 pounds, um, former dual threat kind of rusher and passer at Tennessee and Virginia Tech. So offers a little bit something different, maybe something similar to what Cam Ward offers, but a little bit different than Levis, who's not really a running quarterback. And Trubisky had some running ability,
Yeah.
but those are the quarter. So I think that's a decent quarterback room. There's no, you don't know what Cam Ward's going to do, but it's not terrible. They're all fairly young and all, fairly somewhat experienced. Although Hooker has not, uh, he's only gotten into a couple of games in the NFL. He's only thrown attempted 9 passes in his career, so
Yeah.
not a whole lot of experience.
But they all have at least thrown passes in the NFL.
They all have.
Yes. And they were one of the few teams that actually played all of their QBs in their first preseason game. Cam Ward did start, had like 3 drives. The team scored a touchdown. He didn't have great stats, but they did have a long 95-yard touchdown drive under him uh, in his first drive. Trubisky played second, but only was 2 for 3 for 23 yards. Levis took over. He was 3 for 8, 42 yards. None of the quarterbacks threw touchdown pass or an interception. Uh, the hooker was 2 for 3 for 17 yards.
Hmm.
So they all played. I'm not sure that that helps evaluate anyone because they have so little to look at because they just had like a couple of 1 or 2 drives each, basically. So it's hard to tell much about any of their success from that, small of a sample size. We'll have to see if next week if they, yes, give more playing time to one player or if they
Yeah,
continue to play all of them.
yeah, yeah. Hard to say, but I think it seems like the order probably, at least to start out with, was the order they played. You'll have so probably Ward, then Trubisky, then Levis, then Hooker.
And that's the order that they are paying them as well by their actual like
Move
2026
salary.
salaries.
I
So
yeah, Levis is still on his rookie deal, so
yeah,
he's not going to make a ton. He's a second round pick, but yeah, Ward I guess is going to make more because he's first round overall, so he's probably making more money than yeah. That makes sense.
yep, yep, you got it.
Well, that is Houston. So we've done Houston and former Houston in Tennessee. Now we're moving to up north and slightly east to Indianapolis to visit the Colts training camp. And the Indianapolis Colts also. have four quarterbacks in their quarterback stable. Uh, get it, Colts stable.
Yes. I see what you did there. Yes.
I said stable for another team as well that wasn't a horse related team, but I figured with the Colts I needed to say stable. Uh,
Yes.
so, so probably the starter in Indianapolis was the starter primarily last year. Uh, when that is former New York Giants quarterback and now Indianapolis Colts quarterback Daniel Jones, former 2019 first round draft pick out of Duke, 6'5", 230 pounds. Daniel Jones had a very strong start to the year. He got injured as the year went on. He was 8-5 as a starter with the Colts last year. He was leading the Colts into playoff position where the Colts did not end up making the playoffs. They ended up uh, falling just short of the playoffs. I think they're 8-9 or 9-8. Um, but yeah, and Daniel Jones tore his Achilles tendon in this regular season, so that ended his season in 2025. Um, so, but he had one of his best year, at least since his rookie year, did Daniel Jones. He led the team to the playoffs or to playoff level play for the first time since 2022, where he led the Giants to the playoffs. Uh, but yeah, the Colts decided to re-sign Daniel Jones to another contract, even though he got injured, but he's going to be their starter most likely over Anthony Richardson, the highly drafted quarterback who hasn't really panned out as a starter. Anthony Richardson still is only 24 years old, even though this would be his fourth season in the NFL. So he's still young on the young end. So he's still somebody who could be a developmental player, I think. Um, the Colts declined his fifth-year option, so he's going to be a free agent after this season, most likely. He didn't really play at all last year. He had a broken orbital bone that he broke in pregame warmups during one of the one pregame warm-up practice, which is, I guess, bizarre kind of injury. So he broke his eye, the bone around his eye. Was placed on the IR in October. So, but uh, Anthony Richardson, former first round draft pick, number 4 overall in 2023, out of University of Florida, had put up some big stats. Not then Pat was more drafted on potential rather than uh, on his eye-popping stats at Florida. Had some decent numbers, but wasn't overwhelming in terms of yards passing or things like that. But he was somebody who was seen as an athletic kind of freak. Ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, 6'4", 245 pounds. So big guy, runs fast, strong arm. Seems like kind of a developmental quarterback, but he started 15 games in his career, 8-7 record, 11 touchdowns, only 13 interceptions, so hasn't been very effective while he's played, but he's still a very young quarterback, still only 24 years old. So, still somebody you think that maybe could develop as a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. Somebody who's still younger than Tyler Shuck, for example. I think I'd rather have Anthony Richardson as my possible quarterback than Tyler Shuck to me, but that's neither
He's
here
just so
nor
dynamic and actually has a big arm too, though. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He's you think of him as he could be another Lamar Jackson or he could be another
yeah.
um
If he can stay healthy,
if he can stay healthy. Yeah,
that's the big thing. Because
that's a big
we
thing
we
too.
have seen him miss basically two full seasons with injuries, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He gets injured every time he plays. So
Yeah,
um
there was that first season. Didn't he come out of like the first three games he played or something? I think he left or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
he had a concussion and then some other issues I think as well. And then he's
Yeah.
shoulder surgery and stuff like that. So yeah, he plays a little maybe with too much reckless abandon and needs to tone that down a little bit. But yeah, he could be another Josh Allen, another um
But that's the
Lamar
issue
Jackson
with
type
that kind
player.
of dual threat guy, right? Like we've seen a lot of those types of players flame out relatively early in the NFL
Cam
because of
Newton,
injury.
yeah,
A lot of times, yeah.
yeah,
RG3.
RG3, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's Anthony Richardson. So he's still Anthony Richardson Senior, as he is known, because he has a
Yes.
kid who's Anthony Richardson as well. I think it's um,
That's one of your favorite things, isn't it?
being known as a senior or junior. If you're, yeah, especially if you're senior or junior, isn't I don't I think it's strange. Patrick Mahomes is second because his father was at least a famous athlete. Uh, Whereas, yeah, Anthony Richardson Jr. is a baby, so he's not going to be, eligible to be on the team. So why differentiate between the two? It's not like Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. I think, yeah, I don't get the
Yeah.
designations of junior and senior if one of them is not famous.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's just me. And then we have a battle maybe for the third quarterback between Easton Stick and Riley Leonard. I guess we'll go Riley Leonard first because he was drafted by the Colts originally. Um, he's alphabetically first as well, and he's only
Yeah.
23 years old. Drafted in 2025 in the sixth round out of Notre Dame. They played for Duke as well previously, so he's um, solid quarterback in college, led Notre Dame to a 14-2 record in 2024, ran for 906 yards as well, 17 touchdowns rushing in 2024. That was when Notre Dame actually made it to the national championship game and lost in the national championship game in the playoffs when they lost to Ohio State in 2020. I guess it was in 2025, but in the 2024 season. 6'3", 6'4", about. He's probably the third string quarterback, I would guess, battling it out with Easton Stickle. He did start one game last year with uh, with the Colts. The Colts also, you remember, signed Philip Rivers to play after Daniel Jones got injured as well, bringing him back from retirement. But Leonard started the season finale over Rivers when the Colts were eliminated from playoff contention. And he had a decent start, but two touchdowns, three interceptions, uh, or either two touchdowns and one interception in his final start. Two touchdowns, three interceptions overall in the 2025 season. So that's Riley Leonard, probably the third quarterback. Although maybe somebody who would say maybe is a more capable, more reliable backup than Anthony Richardson, depending on how Anthony Richardson responds to being benched and not being the starter. He's not very happy about his position, I don't think, from what I've read. Maybe I wouldn't be either, but it's hard to say where. But I guess you would guess Leonard would be the third quarterback, and then Easton Stick, former Charger, former North Dakota State fifth round pick by the Chargers. He was with the Chargers for 6 seasons from 2019 to 2024, then with the Falcons last year, and now first season with the Colts. Um, he is he also has some NFL starting experience. He started 4 games for the Chargers in relief of Justin Herbert in 2023, went 0-4 in those 4 starts, but didn't didn't play terribly in those games either. So he's Easton Stick, uh, former North Dakota State FCS national championship quarterback. Did you see that North Dakota State is now a Division I football bowl subdivision team? They decided they moved up from the FCS to
Oh, no,
FBS this offseason.
I did not.
They are now in the Mountain West Conference.
I mean, they seem to like put up like crazy numbers basically every year, don't they? So
Yeah, they've won 10 FCS national championships since 2011.
yeah.
And they won several Division two championships and other small college national championships before that. So, um, yeah, so they moved up to the net. They're in the Mountain West now,
Yeah,
and they
do
won.
you think that'll their success will carry over, or is it going to be like a rude awakening to move up to a maybe a tougher division? I assume it's got to be a tougher
I
division,
think
right?
they'll be pretty good. I think they'll be a little bit like, didn't James Madison do something similar?
Yeah,
Uh, are they F? I'm looking at James Madison. James Madison Dukes football. Let's see. They're in the Sun Belt Conference in the Football Bowl subdivision. So they moved up in 2022. They were FCS before that. They won two national championships in the FCS. So they've moved up and they've been pretty good in the Sun Belt recently. I think they were ranked some last year. So I could see them. Uh, yeah, Kurt Signetti, the coach for Indiana now, was the James Madison head coach in the early 20s. So I could see them having some success. They probably, I bet, I would say they won't be as successful in the football bowl subdivision as they were in FCS, but I think they
yeah,
probably have some success and be a pretty good team. Um, they could beat, they played, sometimes they played like K-State and KU and stuff, and they would beat them or Iowa State and Iowa. They would play sometimes and
yeah,
win against would be competitive at least against those teams
right.
usually. Um, but yeah, that's so Easton Stick, former North Dakota State Bison, is now an Indianapolis Colt.
It looks like he was a relatively late addition to the Colts stable, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, he was signed on
Uh,
June 1st, 2026.
but he did not play in the first preseason game. But yeah, it looks like it was just Riley Leonard and Richardson that played
Hmm.
in the first game. And they Richardson played the first half. Leonard played the second half. Richardson was 11 of 14, 145 yards passing, no touchdowns but one interception. He also did have six rushes, 53 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Uh, Leonard was 10 of 21 for 89 yards, all and a pick. But he did lead the team on a late drive to make a field goal that tied the game, which the game ended in a tie. They don't go to overtime in preseason games, Mike.
No, it was a tie.
So 13-13 tie. Lucky number 13 tie. It does seem like there is a bit of a complication in how they may decide to do things this year though too, because it looks like Anthony Richardson has asked for a trade though at some point in this preseason. It looks
Yeah,
like
I
the
think I
Colts
remember
are
that.
not interested in doing that.
Yeah,
So the trade request from Richardson is still out there,
it's still out there.
but has not been acted on and has also not been rescinded though. So yeah, looks like he would like to play somewhere, but does not expect to get playing time behind Daniel Jones.
All right. Well, I guess the Colts uh, leaving Indianapolis now, going to the final of our eight teams in the NFC and AFC South divisions, going southeast from Indianapolis down to Jacksonville, Florida, to to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Jacksonville, of course, we have also another established starter in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, 6'6", 220 pounds, former first round number one overall pick in 2021 out of Clemson. He was touted as maybe the one of the great prospects of the quarterback draft of the 21st century. He hasn't quite lived up to that as a starting quarterback, but he's been a solid starter his years as a starter in Jacksonville. He did lead Jacksonville last year to a 13-4 record, although they lost their first playoff game, uh, opening playoff game last year. But he's been a starter for uh, two playoff seasons. One game of course, he lost to the Chiefs in 2022. Uh, but the Jacksonville Jaguars have had a decent record with him as a starter, but he has a losing record overall as a starting quarterback, 35-42, 98 touchdowns, 58 interceptions, 86.3 quarterback rating. He's never had a higher than 95 quarterback rating in his 5 years as a starter. But still, Trevor Lawrence is only 26 years old. He'll be 27 in October. So he's not that much older than some of these young quarterbacks. Again, this is going to be his sixth season as a
Yeah.
starter. So, and what we said, the younger, usually if you can draft them younger, the better. Has rung true here in Jacksonville as well. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence, never quite the savior of the Jacksonville Jaguars as maybe that was thought to be when he was drafted, but he still has a lot of potential, I think, and could still, show some quality quality signs of development. So, that's Trevor Lawrence, their starter, going in. Uh, and then we have probably, we would just say Nick Mullins as the backup, primary backup. He's been a
Yeah. That's what it looks like. Yeah.
He's been a solid backup for a while. He started as a backup quarterback back in 2017 for the San Francisco 49ers, where he played as a rookie. Um, or his, like his second year quarterback, he played for the 49ers. He started 8 games back in 2018 when Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, and other quarterbacks were injured. Um, but yeah, Nick Mullins, former Southern Mississippi quarterback, undrafted in 2017, has been with the 49ers, the Eagles, the Browns, the Raiders, the Vikings, and now with the Jaguars. He's been with the Jaguars for the last 2 seasons. He was their backup quarterback last year as well. He's started 20 career games as a starter, 5-15 records, so not so great, but not terrible stats. Um, a decent, a decent backup to have, I guess. Not fairly young still. He's 20, actually he's 31 years old. So he's at this point he's a veteran in his career. So he's been around the block a few times, and he's going to be the backup behind Trevor Lawrence, 31 years old, Nick Mullins.
Well, this
Uh,
is like his ninth season then, right?
yeah, started in 2017, so he's the same started the same year as Mahomes.
Yeah. Man, that seems forever ago.
Yeah, and then we have probably as the third quarter, the two developmental quarterbacks, Carter Bradley and Joey Aguilar. I guess we'll start with Carter Bradley, who has more history. Undrafted in 2024. He's been with the Raiders, the 49ers, and now the Jaguars in the practice squads. Former Toledo and South Alabama quarterback. He's yet to throw a pass in the NFL or even play in the NFL. Um, but he's 6'3", 213 pounds. Uh, More of a passing quarterback than a rusher, but had some good stats with South Alabama in 2022 and 2023, but nothing to write home about. But yeah, he signed as an undrafted free agent with the Raiders originally in 2024. Um, was waived by the Raiders in 2025, signed by the 49ers in 2025. was waived, and then was has been on the Jaguars practice squad since last year. So he's probably maybe the third quarterback. He was actually went. He attended high school in Jacksonville, so he's from the Jacksonville or grew up in the Jacksonville area. He is the son of Gus Bradley, the current defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. So maybe a little bit of nepotism uh, there. Gus Bradley was also the former head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is maybe probably why um, Carter Bradley went to high school in Jacksonville is because his father was the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars at that point. So I mean, there's a little bit of ties to Jacksonville and the Jaguars with Carter Bradley. And he's the sort of, I guess he's the third quarterback, probably competing with Joey Aguilar for the practice squad. Joey Aguilar, undrafted quarterback this year, coming out of uh, Appalachian State and Tennessee. Also played uh, in uh, junior college before that. He's a quarterback that had some good stats at Appalachian State and starter last year at Tennessee. 8-5 record in Tennessee, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So decent quarterback at a you know you know decent university in the SEC football program. So I guess that's why he was picked up. He wasn't drafted anywhere, but he was picked up as a potential fourth quarterback. Signed with the Jaguars as an undrafted free agent, 6'3", 229 pounds. So I would guess he'd be competing with Carter Bradley as the third quarterback. So there's not a whole lot of depth behind Trevor Lawrence, it doesn't seem like. I guess you have Nick Mullins, who's a serviceable backup, maybe, and then really unproven third and fourth guys. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, maybe less experienced than some other quarterback rooms in the AFC South that Jacksonville has, but they do have a solid starter in Trevor Lawrence. Anything you want to add about Jacksonville's quarterback room?
You did read them off in the order that they are both paid and that they started in the preseason game. Although uh, Lawrence did not play in the preseason game, but Mullins did come in. He was first, and then Bradley was second, and uh, Aguilar was the last to come in. And they did not do much in the first half under Mullins, maybe as you might expect based on what you just said just a few minutes ago. So New Orleans was actually up 20-6 at the half, and then in the second half though, uh, the Jags actually came back and won 24-20 was the final. So on the backs of Carter Bradley and Joey Aguilar.
Maybe they're the quarterbacks of the future.
Yeah. So Aguilar did have he was only 1 for 1 for 43 yards though. So
No, but I bet that's a
through
big
one
pass they made.
pass.
Yeah. So it's
Big
primarily
play.
yeah.
And it helped them win the game. So
I'll give
not
for him.
not too shabby though, right? To throw
Not too
one pass and have it be completed for 43 yards.
yes.
And then yeah, they scored a touchdown on the next play. So and that was what gave them the win. So even if that's his only NFL experience, that's pretty exciting though, right?
Yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe it's going to be a great battle, and maybe they'll end up being the 1-2 by the end of the preseason.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they'll be. I'm sure they'll beat up Trevor Lawrence, and he'll be on his way on his way out because there's the he just signed that big contract, so there's no reason they're going to keep him around.
Yeah.
But those are
So
that's the AFC South.
who do you
Any
think's in the best
comments?
shape of the South then, Mike? Who are you most comfortable with as a room?
Ew.
Or who are you most worried about if, say, the number one QB goes down.
If the number one QB goes down, I would guess I'd be the most worried about Jacksonville, I would guess. Although
Yeah,
I'm the least worried about Tennessee if the number one quarterback goes down. I think Tennessee has by
has
far
some depth.
the most depth of any of the quarterbacks rooms with Levis,
Because
former starter Levis, former starter Trubisky, Hendon Hooker is the fourth quarterback who's has more experience than any of basically any of the third or fourth quarterbacks in the other teams, except maybe I guess Indianapolis. Riley Leonard has a bit of experience as a third quarterback, but
yeah,
um, yeah, it's not. Yeah. I think the depth is Tennessee. I don't think Houston's too bad either, but yeah, Jacksonville's a little bit light, I think, in terms of what it has. And it's putting a lot of pressure on Mullins being a capable backup when I guess at this point, this part of his career, that's who he is. But uh, I think they have had Mullins. Well, they it seems like the Jacksonville has had different backups in the past that are a little bit more
hmm
experienced than Mullins, but um, I guess Lawrence is kind of a veteran by this point. So,
hmm
but yeah, so those are the those are the quarterbacks of the AFC South and the NFC South. And we'll be back next week with a preview of the AFC and NFC North quarterbacks. Anything else we should add before we wrap up this week's episode of the Power Hour?
One very quick thing, Mike. The Kansas City Royals scored 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth and won against the Athletics, 4-3.
Wow.
Bobby Witt drove in the winning run after a Tolbert 2 RBI single
Walk
to
off.
get the game tied. Yeah, so they managed to not just send it to extras, but they won it outright in the ninth.
So 53 and 74 now the Royals are.
So it wasn't quite as bad as we thought.
31 and 30 at home. So they have a winning home record despite being 21 games under 500. So they're 22 under 500 on the road.
Just
Winning
a
record.
disaster road
So,
record. Yes.
yeah. So if they were just somewhat close to that, they'd still be in playoff contention if they were somewhat close to what their home record was on the road.
Yes. Yeah. If they have the same record, they'd only be like a
A
couple
couple
games out of
games.
first in the
Yeah.
division. Yeah. But no, they're like 14 back or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, good for the Royals. Made a nice comeback while we were discussing the quarterbacks of the AFC and NFC South. Next week, we'll be back with the quarterbacks of the AFC and NFC North, as we discussed. So, uh, is that all we have tonight at the One Track Power Hour? Should we wrap it up? We've had a long, thorough episode again, talking about the quarterback depth of 8 NFL teams, the NFC and AFC South. Hopefully, you've been enlightened just as much as we have been in our research and our discussion of these fine athletes. We will be, as I said, back next week with even more coverage of the quarterback rooms of the NFL next week, and then the week after that. So we have 2 more weeks of this to look forward to. So 2 more extra long episodes of the Morning Trek Power Hour to pay attention to. So be on the lookout for that. So as always, I'm Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Trek Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and or our podcast, available on many different podcast delivery platforms. We appreciate your viewership or your listenership, however you patronize us. We appreciate that. As long as you also use the term patronize in a positive way rather than a negative way, although not in a patronizing way. Uh, but yeah, we appreciate uh, your connection to us here at the Power Hour, and we're glad to have you as part of the Morning Trek Power Hour family. And so we also wish you the best of luck this weekend as you're making your preseason NFL football bets. You know our bets are always going to be on the under on in preseason NFL action. So you should get on the under as well if you know what's good for you. Um,
We
but
well, week one,
we
preseason.
it did pretty well last. It did well pretty well this week. So uh, I think it'll. I think it'll stick. We'll see. Um, Low scoring, a lot of low scoring games, and also ties are not settled. So there's no overtime to
Yes,
kick the over at the last minute. So
exactly.
that's good for the under bettors as well. But you can make your bets as well as you please. But also try not to have your interest conflict with ours, as we always say here at the Power Hour.
Yes,
Anything else to add before we sign off, Dr. Scaff?
I think we're good.
Well, we'll see you again next week at the Power Hour. And from Dr. Scaff, from myself, we at the Power Hour wish you all a good day.